So in Photoshop, you're going to do a small document. It's 64 pixels high by 64 pixels wide. And it's going to be composed of at least 3, but no more than 8 images. You can see mine. Right now, my animation that loops is 6 images. You can see that each image lasts on the screen for 0.1 seconds. And each frame here, so this is the timeline, which you open with Window, Timeline, just as a reminder. The timeline for the frame animation that is here, each frame corresponds with a layer. And you can see when I click on the frames which layer it corresponds with when it has the visible eye icon next to it, right? I renamed these for me so that I could understand it. I highly recommend you do that too. And you can also see that in each layer the background is visible. You can toggle that off if you want, but you would have to do it for each layer. Okay? So I also point this out too, that whenever you're editing a layer, after you have them, say you've already created all your frames and you want to edit a frame, you have to do it by the layer, and it's just easier to select the layer as opposed to hoping that, so right now 6 is visible, but I want to mess with 5. You see it'll go to the one that's visible. So just keep that in mind. I hit spacebar to play the animation, and I want to point down right here this little key stroke indicator that I have for y'all. So that is the spacebar sign. That is Command, obviously it'll highlight like that. Option/Alt is right there. Control is that, probably won't use it, and Shift is right there. So let's say if I did something like Command O to open, you would see it there. It's pretty brief, but you're in a video, so you can scrub back and forth to see whatever you need to see. So let's go over how to do this really quickly. I'm not going to do the whole baby, but I'll show you how to set up a frame animation in Photoshop. So spacebar to stop the animation, spacebar to start it, just so you know. Okay, Command N will open up a new document. We want it to be pixels for sure, right? 64, and then I hit Tab to go to the height by 64, great. Tab, resolution, you want to make sure it's 72, great. RGB color, lovely. Create, boom, here we go, really small. Remember our navigation for zooming in and out, which is Command, it'll say equals down there, but Command plus, if that helps you remember, and Command minus to zoom out. So zoom in, zoom out. First things first, let's just do this before we forget. We're going to create a new layer. This is where we're going to draw. Right now our background is white, and we have sort of an open layer, right? You know that gray and white grid just means it's see-through, right? It's transparent. That's great. We probably don't want a background, like say for my baby, for example. When I export this, I want the baby just to float over top of a background. If you think about the Popeye animation, and the cells, the clear paper that they did the paintings on, we essentially want this to be clear paper when we import it to other things and layer it with other things in a collage technique. So just keep that in mind. So leave the background layer and leave your transparent layers that you're working on for right now. In order to visualize what we're about to create in each of these layers that will then translate into frames, it's good to see the grid system, the grid pixel system underneath. So to toggle that on, go to View, Show, Grid, which is Command apostrophe for a shortcut. And right now you can see it's a 1 pixel, 1 pixel. So each of my squares is a pixel high by pixel wide, so that the entire composition area is 64 by 64. That's great. Yours probably will not look like that. So in order to set that up, Photoshop, Preferences, go to Guides, Grids, and Slices. And then right here where it says Grid, that's where you want to play. So you can make this any color you want, but I'm going to do light gray, and I kind of recommend that too. It's less obtrusive as you're creating your image. Pixel, this is important. Set it to 1 pixel. Set the subdivisions to 1. It might be default 0, but you just need 1. So you just want to see 1 pixel by 1 pixel. Each of those squares is 1 pixel by 1 pixel. You can hit OK. And now we're going to start drawing. The tool that we want to use is the pencil tool, not the brush tool, but the pencil tool, which can have hard edges, or essentially edges that conform to the array of pixels, the 1 pixel by 1 pixel grid, as opposed to the brush tool, which has this kind of softening effect, or like blurred effect in a way. So pencil tool is right here. It might have the brush tool by default, but if you click on the brush tool and hold, you can get to the pencil tool. And you saw that once your pencil tool is selected, B is your keyboard shortcut to access it. You want to come up here, pencil, great. You want to make sure this is set, at least to start, to 1 pixel, hardness 100%. Normal for the mode is fine, and just make sure your opacity is 100. We might, I don't know why it wouldn't be, but just in case. And then let's set up your eraser tool. So that would be E as the keyboard shortcut, but there are also some other options. So if eraser tool doesn't pop up, click and hold this, select the eraser tool, great. There it is. You want to make sure it is size 0 to start, and the really important thing is the mode to be set to pencil. Sometimes it's set to brush, and that has a different way of erasing. We want pencils that will erase 1 pixel at a time if your size is set to 1 pixel. Opacity 100%. Great. So we're essentially ready to go. We're just going to start with drawing just like a black ball that drops. So using the bracket, open bracket, or sorry, the closed bracket, I can make something bigger. And, oops, sorry, that was the eraser tool. With the pencil tool, I can make it bigger, right? And that's layer 1. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate my layer. So what I could do is do Command J for the shortcut, or I'm going to do Command Z, or I can do an Option, right? Option down there, click and drag up. Do you see that little bar, the little blue bar highlight? And then you have layer 2. A duplicate of layer 1, so layer 1, copy. And then I can hit V for my selection tool, and I'm just going to nudge this thing down a little bit, because it's going to fall. I'm going to make it to such as the ground, right? So you can already see what's going to happen. All right. Then with that one, I'll make that invisible. I don't need to see it now. I'm going to do Command J again, duplicate this second layer, make this one invisible because I know it's there. And what's going to happen with still V, my selection tool selected, I'm going to move it down here, and I am thinking that my ball is going to kind of flatten out when it hits the ground. So I hit B for my pencil tool. It's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, God. Awesome. I'm going to hit Command J to duplicate that layer, make this one invisible. Now I'm V, and I can, let's make the whole thing just go down. And I'm hitting Shift to keep it on the same axis. B, and it's just like really squishing out here. Great. Sort of crazy. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to copy, essentially go in the reverse. This is a really rudimentary animation, but just to show you. So holding down Option, I'm going to click and drag this one above it. And then I come here, right? I'm going in reverse, but I have to build up on top of this layer. I'm going to click and drag layer 1 copy and put that above that. So now it'll go down, so middle, down, down, squish, and then build back up, and then this will come back to this layer 1. So now let's turn this into an animation. So you can go into all of these, toggle the visibility, edit them as you want, but let's look at how you turn this into a frame animation really quickly. So window, timeline, frame animation. If it doesn't say frame animation, click there. You want it to make sure it is frame animation. Then you select this box. Awesome. So you can see it's only showing the one that's visible. Click on this little hamburger thing right here, this little icon, and then make frames from layers. And you can see what happened, right? We picked up a rogue background layer. If you want to do, we can erase that. So I can hit erase, and it doesn't include it. So great, you're done with that. Now to animate these, select all of them. Click right here, this little down arrow. Let's do 0.1 seconds to start, and then I can just hit play, which is spacebar. Okay, so that's a really rudimentary way to make a animated GIF in Photoshop. You have 6 discrete images, but then when played in sequence, they create this illusion of motion. Frickin' magic. Dope. Spacebar to stop, and I just want to show you how you export that. So File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. Look how teeny it is, right? So 64 by 64 pixels is fine. You could just do that. But if you want to make it bigger, say 500 pixels by 500 pixels, which isn't even that big, you want to definitely make sure you change it to nearest neighbor. Yeah, it'll maintain its sort of pixelated look. Make sure it's set to 500, set to forever, pardon me, and then you hit save, not done. You can save your GIF, gif.gif, and then I can pull it up right there. Subtle. That is awesome because it's the transparent background as a reminder, so that's why it looks like that. Okay, does that all make sense?